You're listening to the iPassMyBarExam.com podcast, helping you pass your bar exam with ease and confidence. Episode number 16. Hello and welcome, future bar exam passers. My name is Dustin Saidi, author of the 7 Steps to Bar Exam Success. And today we're going to bring someone on the call today who went through a lot of mistakes as he was preparing for the bar exam. And he's going to tell you what those mistakes were and how you can avoid them. So this individual actually took the bar exam 10 times, finally passed on his 11th. He's a well-known legend in the bar exam space, and he goes by the Grand Poobah. So without further ado, let's hear what the Grand Poobah has to say about the bar exam. All right, hello and welcome to the call. We are here with Brian Johnston, a.k.a. the Grand Poobah, that you may know from Bar Exam Prep, who has been kind enough to come onto the call today. And today, Brian is going to share the 5 things that took him from being a repeater into becoming a bar exam passer. He took the bar exam 10 times, didn't pass, but on the 11th time is the charm. He was able to pass, and he's going to come share with us today kind of what happened in that 11th time to make him a passer. So how you doing, Brian?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Thanks for coming on the call today.
Sure, Dustin, no problem.
So if you want to just give a little bit of background about you and kind of your experiences with the bar exam in general, so people get to know who you are.
Well, most of who I am is already up on the blog. I think I shared most of the publicly available information, but yeah, I'm 55 years old, and I went to law school at 45 and graduated on time, and then it took me a few years, 5 years I guess, to pass the bar. But prior to going to law school, I worked in information technology. I was a programmer and did technical support for a large memory company in Orange County, and migrated to web design and the old acronym of webmaster for what I did. I maintained their website, and then as my skills became stagnant, I decided I had to move on to something more lucrative for my future and something I could do until I was old and gray, even though I was already old and partially gray. And so I cashed in my 401k and paid off my bills and went to law school, and with the hopes of being able to now work until my feeble years, until I could barely get to court and represent people or do whatever I wanted to do. So it gives me much more flexibility. That was my thinking, and it would ensure me the type of maintaining a consistent stream of income throughout my life, and instead of having to rely on the fickle IT business industry to keep that up.
Wow. Well, I admire you for having the courage to take the leap, at that point in your life, and then also the discipline and the persistence to keep fighting through it until you broke through. So definitely admire the persistence.
Yeah, I had after 2 or 3 years of trying, I had many people had suggested that I quit or go do something else, or if you're familiar with the blog, you're familiar with the naysayers on there, and a lot of them suggested I go off and do something else. But at that point, I had so much time and money invested in it, it was really not a realistic option to quit. So I was almost forced into continuing, and I'm really glad I did, because I'm extremely satisfied now. Things couldn't be better. Well, they will get better, but right now it's having accomplished this is a hugely satisfying achievement.
That's great. How was it dealing with that, with kind of going through the process of not passing and or having people telling you maybe you should give up or quit? How is that emotionally? How did you deal with that?
Well, it's pretty much as you would expect. It's a constant torment. I mean, when you talk amongst people and lay people who haven't gone to law school, they don't really understand. They don't know what law school is like, and they don't know what the bar exam is like, and they don't know any of the associated pressures and things that go along with that. And so they, I can kind of write that off because they just didn't know. But amongst my peers, it was tough because there's a lot of people out there who went to law school and haven't yet passed the bar, and there's kind of a threshold where you're considered, reasonably successful for, I guess, or smart or something for having gone to law school and graduated. But until you've actually passed the bar, you're kind of like a second-class citizen. People, it's like, yeah, great, you went to law school, but and the change in people's perception and the way they treat you and talk to you and everything else after having passed the bar is it's tremendous. And so the whole time I was just dealing with the stigma of having gone to law school and graduated but not having passed the bar exam. And I know most of my friends said it didn't bother them, and they still, I was still their friend. But personally, it was tough to include myself amongst them, simply because I hadn't passed yet, and it was an achievement that I struggled with, in a stigma, if you will, kind of a scarlet letter that I attached to myself and I wore every day. And I think I hit it pretty well. The disappointment of not having passed, but man, it was tough. It was tough every single day. And then plus having started my blog and having my face up there, going to the bar exam every time, people would recognize me, and some people would talk to me, and some people would just point and kind of talk to their buddies, and so it was there was a little more pressure because of that as well. But it was tough. But you just had to slog on, just forget about it and put your head down and keep working, and know that someday you're gonna get through it. And that was the attitude that I had. I knew I was smart enough. I knew enough law, and I knew I had to keep going, and so I did. And
awesome. So let's talk about then, what are 5 things that really you feel that you did differently that time that you passed, that took you from repeater to bar exam passer? What are kind of the top 5 tips that you give?
Well, the first thing, as I mentioned on the blog, was that I gave up on my manic adherence to the strict IRAC method. Being a programmer and all, the level of attention to detail that you have to employ in that business to be successful is immense. I mean, you have to cover all the options, all the bases. You have to code for all the different possibilities of all the different variables and the way people will input it and the way the data comes in, that kind of thing. So when I look at a question, I would do the same thing. It's like, okay, I have to consider all the facts from all the different angles, and I have to try and code for them, if you will. I have to try and write them into my solution. And I discovered that after a while that I wasn't able to get nearly enough analysis on the paper because I was so busy trying to include every fact in every possible way it could fit. And I just wasted a lot of time with a lot of extra words I didn't need. So I gave up on the strict IRAC, and I decided to just kind of wing it, if you will, because I looked at some of the model answers closely finally, because I had kind of been avoiding them. I was just, pissed off at myself. It's like, yeah, my answer should have been good enough. I'm not going to look at somebody else's answer, but I finally forced myself to, and I noticed that while they had the issues and the rules and they had the elements there, once they got to the analysis part, they kind of free flowed a little bit. They showed a level of comfort with the subject that showed the grader that they knew the material. And I think the ability to write in that casual way while still addressing all the facts and relating them to the rules, but not in such a strict way, shows that I was comfortable with the material, and I can write about it confidently and competently and in a lawyer-like way, like they say you should. So that was my a big change, and that was partially due to the fact that I kind of threw in the towel and said, screw it, I'm pissed off at myself and everything else. I'm just going to write what I think instead of what I think they want to see.
Very interesting. So something that changed the game for you then was looking at those sample model answers and seeing kind of how are they wording it, and then that helped you cater your writing style in that manner.
Yeah, and I also looked at some of the past answers that hadn't scored so well. There's a website or two out there that have collections of past answers, and looked at the way they wrote, looked at the way the passing answers wrote, and noticed the same difference. So in the back of my mind, I was thinking, that's probably something I should aspire to. And I just hadn't done it, hadn't been able to do it, hadn't been able to break free of my background enough to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I hope all the listeners on the podcast go and look at some sample answers to see exactly what is it that looks good, what is it that's passing, so that they know what to write. I know that helped me with my bar exam a lot when I actually saw an actual 65 passing answer, that I saw kind of exactly what it is that people are looking for, what's really needed in order to pass. That really changed the game for me as well.
Right, and right after they should pay attention to right after the issue and the rule is stated. The bar obviously puts two different styles of answers out there, but one thing I noticed was they don't write, and on the front of the essay packet they say don't just write the law, show that you understand what you're talking about, and you'll see that these people kind of go on a riff. They just start writing about the facts and the rules, and they become more casual, and that's what I noticed, and I hadn't paid attention before. So
okay, awesome. What's the second thing that you did?
Well, I started this actually in February for the February exam of 2012. I started studying my MBE subjects first, and I went through all those, made sure I was comfortable with them, and I remembered all the rules, because the MBEs are obviously 35% of your grade, and they're also roughly half or better of the essays. So I thought that if I knew the MBE subjects forward and backward, I would cover most of the material. So I made a conscious effort to get those down first before I moved on to the other subjects, and I think that helped, because 3 of the essays or so are MBE subjects, and they're going to be crossed over on 1 or 2 others. So I felt like I did myself a favor by doing that, because the information was really ingrained in my brain. Of course, it all was by that point. I'd taken the darn thing 10 times, and I felt like I knew the rules pretty well, but I still wanted to reinforce those.
Right. Well, Brian, you should have read my blog in 2011. That's the exact advice I give, is to study the MBE topics first.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Obviously, Brian's not reading my blog, but that's okay. Well, yeah, and I agree, because MBE, if you study the MBE topics first, let's say you spend 3 days per topic, at least getting that first overview, you'll hit all the MBE topics and about half your essays within the first 3 weeks. So the first 3 weeks, you're almost, quote unquote, I don't want to say halfway done or whatever, because again, you'll review them over and over, but you'll have seen about half the material in the first 3 weeks, which is fantastic. So I agree completely with that advice. What's your third thing that you did?
Let's see. I decided to forego studying. Well, not forego, but I decided not to focus or not to study my strong subjects, the subjects I consider my strong ones, so much, and focus on the ones that I felt like I could improve on. And for me, that was Civ Pro and Con Law and Real Property and 1 or 2 others, with the thought that I wasn't going to improve a lot on my strong subjects. I mean, I knew them pretty well, and I always scored reasonably well on them, of course, within the realm of the scores that I got, which were not all that impressive. But I felt like there was little room for improvement there. But the subjects I was kind of average in, or I felt, middle and comfortable, I wanted to get comfortable with those. So I studied those a lot, and I pretty much gave up on the ones I was weak on. I figured, heck with it. I've been studying these things for 5 years, and I've never, improved those. So I'm just going to, wing it on the bar exam when I get there. So I studied primarily the subjects that I felt like I could improve on, and just, consigned to the dustbin, if you will, the subjects that I knew I was going to do poorly on, and hope that I could bring my other scores up sufficient to cover for those.
Oh, okay. And so when you took the bar, did you find a lot of those topics? Like, what kind of topics did you get? Did you find the ones that you were strong at, or the ones that you really didn't know?
Right. Well, I've always complained about Civ Pro. I always said that I really didn't like Civ Pro, and that one of my least favorite subjects, and it probably still is. But I worked hard on that, and then in this last exam we had a situation where there was a Canadian corporation, doing business in one state only, and these people got injured in a car accident, and there was subject matter jurisdiction and personal jurisdiction, and I knew the rules for alien corporations, and I felt when I saw that, and I started writing, and the rules just bubbled up from my brain from what I had just studied over the last few weeks. I was actually happy. I was smiling to myself on that exam, and I was thinking that, wow, this is a Civ Pro exam, and I'm liking it, and I'm actually think I'm doing well. This is bizarre. So it really worked. It really worked pretty well for me.
Okay, cool. And all right, what's your fourth thing that you did?
I outlined completely on my laptop before I started writing. In the past I had, everybody always says outline on your laptop or somewhere, but complete your outline and then fill in the essay from there. But in the past I started my outline, and then I had written the rules, and then kind of filled in a couple of facts so I wouldn't forget. And then pretty soon, 20, 25 minutes later, I found that I was still filling in some facts, and I actually found myself writing a little bit of analysis. And then, almost halfway through the essay, I really didn't have anything concrete on the paper, if you will. So this time I forced myself to complete my outline on my laptop, and then go back through and check it. And one thing that did was, especially on that crim law one we had where the guy had killed that lady, it was evidence. It was evidence, and they were bringing in the marital confidentiality privilege and the marital communication privilege. And the first time through, I had put both those in the first call. And then, having gone through my outline again before I started writing, I realized that the confidentiality privilege was in the second call, and the testimonial privilege was in the first call. And so that enabled me to straighten up my outline before I started writing, so I didn't find myself halfway through struggling to figure out what I had to rearrange and where I had to put something, and subsequently lose my train of thought. That helped a lot. And on that one, and on the criminal law one where the guy had the gun, and that one as well, it helped a lot. The criminal procedure, that one was criminal law, crim pro.
What was it? The fact that you completed the outline that helped a lot, or was the fact that you wrote it on your laptop, or a mix of both?
The fact that I completed it. I would first try and write it on paper. From years past, I would try and write it on paper and then copy that to my laptop. This time I just did it on the laptop right off the bat. I've never had a laptop failure on the bar exam, and everybody always warns against that. Well, what happens if your laptop fails? You don't have your outline, and it's not someplace where you can use it. But I decided to roll the dice, and it wasn't that big of a risk because I've never had a failure. Knocking on wood, that it wouldn't happen again. And so I outlined completely on the laptop, and I finished my outline, and I made sure that I had gone through all the facts and all the fact pattern, and gotten all the issues I wanted to get, and then after I had completed it, then I started writing, and that was something I hadn't done before. Seems obvious, but I hadn't done it.
Okay, awesome. And what's your fifth thing?
I decided to. Well, this is something that I was taught very recently. To start really strong on the first page, because the grader is going to look at the first page, and they're going to get an overall impression of your essay based on that, and then that overall impression will carry on through the rest of the essay as they're reading it. So I focused on being very comprehensive and complete in my analysis on the first page of the first issue, and then I kind of went into automatic mode for the rest of it. And then with about 10 minutes to go, I slowed down, and I went back and I reviewed everything I had written, made sure I'd completed every issue, completed every analysis. I come to a conclusion, did my spell check and everything else, and basically closed up properly to make sure I had a good finish. So that was a logical way to proceed through the fact pattern that I hadn't employed before, and it helped me stay organized and keep track of time. And I think it presented a better picture of what I was writing to the grader. At least I hope it did. I hope my writing improved on this thing, and it wasn't just a MBE score of 180 that got me by. but that was it. And I also continued to focus throughout on my MBEs. I never let them slide. I kept up on those, even though I have a historically high MBE score relative to everyone who gets their MBE score back. I made sure I kept up on those, maintained my skill set there.
Okay, nice. So you didn't. Sometimes when people they fail the first time, the second time they'll come through, they'll say, "Oh, well, I passed the MBEs, but I failed the essays, so I'm only going to do the essays," or vice versa. So you're saying to keep up with both of them. Don't just let one hang and go for the other one.
Right, and I always thought that was a little risky, and that's one reason I never skipped an exam. I didn't want to let my skills on anything diminish. I wanted to maintain that the good performance that I had always had. And over the years, my MBE score has gradually gone from, I think, a low of 123. The first time it was 128, then it was 123, and then it gradually went up and up and up. In February 2012, I got a 149 and raw MBE score, and and I wouldn't be surprised, and I say this with all humility, if that's all possible, that I wouldn't be surprised if my MBE score was closer to 160 this time than it was 150, because I felt like they were very easy, which is, I felt that way before, and I hadn't gotten that good of a score, so, I could be wrong, but I feel like I improved on those. So even if I didn't improve dramatically on my essays and my PTs, I feel like I maintained my MBE score, and if I improved that, then that might have obviously the combined scores were enough to pass. I don't know what they were, but I still wanted to maintain my MBE skills.
I got you. Brian, did you ever take a bar prep program at some point?
Yeah, I've taken a number of them. Right out of law school, I was the Barbary rep for our school for my class, and so I sat through Barbie's lectures. And I've taken a number of them over the years, and I could recall a few of them, but I never felt like I got that much out of them, because the tutors, or the people who ran the programs, I found that they typically just stood in front of the class, in front of the class they were teaching, and most of them lectured from an outline. Some of them didn't even take questions. It was basically a rehash of what we had in law school. A professor up there, teaching the law, and we all had a pretty good grasp of the law at that time. And I would go to the classes and sit there and wonder what I was doing there and what I was learning, because I knew everything they were saying. I can follow through on my outline and read, and it was like, kind of, well, duh, that's kind of obvious. A burglary is still a burglary, and a murder is still a murder, and homicide is, what it is, and manslaughter and whatnot. And I didn't get that much. There wasn't that much value added to most of them over the years until recently.
Did the time that you passed the bar exam, which by the way was this past summer, so again, congratulations. Did you do any bar prep or specifically for that time as well, or no?
Yeah, I to name names, I used Jason Tallarico's program. I used him primarily at I started in for the February 2012 exam, and I studied a lot starting in December all the way through the exam on that one, and I felt like I rebuilt my foundation, the same foundation I had back in law school when I got out of law school, of the material. And then after I failed February 2012, I didn't work so much on memorizing. I worked more on my writing, and in fact, I didn't work nearly as hard as I had before. I tried to get more work done, more paying work done, and but yeah, I used a tutor for the whole last year, and I think he was instrumental in my passing because of his philosophy and his attitude, and the way he taught how to approach these things and to break them down and attack them and be comfortable with them.
You mentioned something too. You just said you worked more on your writing, not your memorizing. Can you clarify more on that too?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody knows. You go through an outline for the 100th time, and it's deja vu all over again. I mean, it's an outline, and it's what we learned in law school, and you can only get so much out of it uh, through repetition. I mean, yeah, it helps to refresh the rules in your brain for each bar exam, but there's only so much time. There's only so much benefit you can get from that. I mean, after a while, the rules just pop into your head. So after going through a few outlines this time, I realized that I was wasting my time, or at least it wasn't the best use of my time. So I started. That's when I started to look at the released answers and a properly constructed passing answer. And I think that where I was really trying to figure out what the heck it was I was doing wrong, and why my really nice IRAC answers were not getting good scores, and trying to compare the two and figure out what a passing answer looked like. So I was working on my writing, trying to modify my writing style to match the passing answers.
Wonderful. That is a wonderful tip. So the 5 that I have here. So again, kind of improving the writing, looking at the model answers was the first one. Studying the MBE topics first was the second one. Focusing on where you can improve was the third one. Fourth one was completing your outline and, if necessary, doing that on your laptop. And then fifth was really giving a good impression to that grader on that first page. So, and I think you're right. They do form a snap judgment based on what they see on that first page and how they're going to grade it.
Yeah, and I tried to carry that over to the performance exams too, because I'd always felt like I had done decently on those, but I never really got I got the occasional 65, but mostly it was 60s and 55s on those, and this time I kind of carried over my damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, kind of casual attitude on the PTs as well. And prior to this exam, I had a bad habit of copying a lot of the material from the library into my answer, which wasted a lot of time. This time I didn't do that, and I just worked more on including analysis. And then I also attacked the library first instead of the file, and I think that might have helped me as well.
Very good, awesome, great tips. Do you have anything else? Any other bonus things you would want to mention to help bar students pass the bar exam?
I would just say that everyone who graduates law school knows enough law to pass the bar exam, and I think the stress of the situation causes people to kind of get out of their comfort zone. And I know that I was I don't know if you remember those old football games, those little toy games where you put all these little men on a table and you turn it on and it vibrates and they kind of move around, and when one guy touches another, it's like, oh, I got you. I felt like my brain was kind of that way when I sat for the bar exam. The stress level would ramp up, and I would lose focus, and I would be unable to write like I felt like I could write, or I wrote when I practiced. So, calming down, having the confidence level to know that you can pass this thing, and not worrying so much about what the grader is going to think of it, but just writing comfortably, writing like you know what you're talking about. And I keep going back to that blurb on the front of the essay packet. It says, they were looking for lawyer-like analysis, and so talk like a lawyer and write like you're comfortable with the material. And I think that's a big key.
Awesome, fantastic, I love it. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming on. And I didn't ask you this. Your Grand Poobah, where did Grand Poobah come from?
Well, when I was a kid, and I was a real little kid, we used to play with cars and trucks in the backyard and in the dirt, and we would always have names of the characters that died frequently, and they all had the last name of Poobah, and so there was Janie Poobah and Billy Poobah and whatnot, and then when I was thinking about a name for the blog, I was thinking I had to incorporate some kind of casual name in there that I could use, and then back to the Fred Flintstone cartoons when he was the Grand Poobah and the leader of their lodge. That just seemed like an easy pick, an easy name, and not pretentious and kind of self-deprecating, if you will, and even though it implies Grand Poobah-ness, but but I was kind of making fun of myself, but it works. It works.
It works for your own style, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so and if people want to like get in touch with you, or what's your website name? It's got kind of a funny URL.
Yeah, it's again, it was started back in 2007. It's California GBX 0707 at blogspot.com. California GBX 0707
at blogspot.com. Okay, and I'll have a link to that in the website as well.
Yeah, my email address is on there somewhere, so anybody can send me an email.
Okay, so yeah, if anybody has a question or wants some advice from you, I'll find the email and I'll put it on the website as well. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You're quite welcome, Dustin. Thanks for having me.
Sure, and we'll talk to you again at some point.
Very good.
All right, and there you have it, the Grand Poobah of the bar exam, giving his more than 5 tips to go from repeater to passer on the bar exam. If you want to visit his blog, it's got kind of a funny URL. You heard him say it. Also, you can just go to iPassedMyBarExam.com/Grand Poobah, GrandPoobah, and you can take a look at his blog. Also, his email is B as in boy, L as in laughter, L as in laughter, Y as in young, poobah@gmail.com. So head on over to his site, just see some of the advice he has, or send him an email if you want to ask him some questions about the bar. All right, and don't forget to sign up for my newsletter at iPassedMyBarExam.com and get your 12 keys to bar exam success. Go ahead and do that now, and I will send you the 12 keys to bar exam success, and also quick tips about the bar exam throughout your bar exam prep. So get out there and crush it this week. Go do a great job, and in time, your name too will appear on the pass list. Take care.